Pepville, baby, that's where we dig, sipping the exquisite, beautiful tea that is Bana, tuned in to the tantalizing, tattooed, hot chick Sophia Correas, fearing Shari's quick fist that splits the forehead of the funky Rudo. Oh, listen, a woman with a bulldozer. Bull Nakano, my woman from Tokyo. Sweet Mary Lou, queen of Bejeweled. Mamacita, the most boss chick of the OC. Goddesses, babies, everywhere. Goddesses. They're just plain rad, baby. So turn up the stereo. This is Slammin' Stan. The moon is in the 7th house. And Slammin' Stan is in 20C, the third trimester of the 20th episode. We're goofing its way through the internet, pranking through the herbal air, leaving it up to the het cats, babies, to swing like 16. We are 5 years ahead of our times, trying to drink in the wisdom of the third bardo who wrote that great song. We're back, everybody. We have returned. This is Slammin' Stan. This is Vandal Drummond, and I am with Alfredo Esparza. How's it going tonight, Alfredo?
Hey, Kurt, you want to explain to people what's been going on with the show?
Yes, let me see if I can do it in quick time as opposed to the nearly 2-hour episodes we've been having lately, including one where I very humbly phoned Alfredo the next day and said, Fredo, I'm very embarrassed by my performance last night. Could you please remove that episode, the first episode number 20 of Slammin' Stan from Blog Talk Radio. Now, those of you who heard it probably understand. 98% of the episode I was very happy with, but I said a few things that I wish I had not said, mentioned a few names, and I blame it all on sleep deprivation. I hate blaming myself, so I will blame my lack of sleep. I was punch drunk all day after only 2 hours sleep, and while I had a very good time talking with Fredo, Dr. Lucha, and the Bixie Demon on the phone, I was very embarrassed by my performance, so we took that episode down. So, we are all ready to do the episode Take 2 the following Thursday. And there were leprechauns roaming somewhere in Blog Talk because we were ready to go on air, and we could not connect. And Fredo, is it still a mystery what happened? Was Blog Talk just going bonkers and our show wouldn't take?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because like I said, the switchboard, it didn't show your phone number or anything because it shows who's calling in. Like if you're calling from a certain number, it won't show your phone number. But like yours does pop up, and then there's like a little high five, like a little hand signal.
Yes.
And then you press the on-air button and it starts. And for some reason, last week, that didn't show up when you called. And I know you called right before the show and everything, so.
Exactly, because, and we didn't want to spend all night trying to figure out what was going wrong.
And I didn't want to do a 2-hour special.
As we have been doing lately. We have been doing these enjoyable stream of consciousness episodes where we go anywhere from an hour and a half to a full 2 hours. And while we've been having a fun time talking with what we call Los Cuatro Rudos, Alfredo Esparza, Vandal Drummond, Steve, Dr. Lucha Sims, and the Bixie Demon, David Bixenspan, while they have been enjoyable phone calls, we question how enjoyable it is to listen to us all totally ranting for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So we want to kind of like put the rein around the reindeers and kind of haul them on in and kind of, and I need to mellow myself out. I'll just say that too. So, Slammin' Stan number 20, episode A, we voluntarily took off the air. Episode B just was a mystery. We don't know what happened to it, or why it did not appear. This is episode C, so let's see what happens with episode C. And we hope you'll enjoy this episode. We are going to be covering all things Lucha Libre, the passings of two notable personas in the wrestling business, of course, Umaga and L.A. promoter Mike Lebelle.
Kurt,
and
Kurt, before you go on, I got to ask you the weekly question. Did you watch AAA?
I watched the first match, and I already forgot what the first match is. So I watched whatever opened on television on AAA, and it's already a distant memory. I know I should be ashamed of myself. Just
you know what it is? I think AAA is turning into TNA for you now.
I suspect so. And I should give it more of a chance because I've watched so little of it lately. I need to just kind of forcibly sit myself down. I have been in hyper mode lately. I just remember I dug the Bitchin' Tope. I can't remember which technical it was. It was in the match with the Exoticos. That's what I remember. It was with the heel Exoticos who were ranting on Pimpinela.
Uh-huh.
And it was a simple Bitchin' Tope where the wrestler just, from inside the ring, jumped up on the second rope and just kind of flipped over onto one of the Exoticos below. That was what caught my attention. Make what you want of that.
I'm trying to figure out what show it was. Oh, okay, I know. Now I know.
Lucha de Vuelta.
Yeah. Because they didn't show it on Saturday because of the telethon.
That's right. I remember I DVR'd it, and then I was a little surprised to see the telethon, so I DVR'd the next one.
Yeah.
And I did watch the UFC, which I'm not going to talk about because there was not much to talk about, and we don't like to talk mixed martial arts on this show.
You like to talk mixed martial arts. I don't like to talk mixed.
Occasionally I like to talk about it, but it's based too much in reality, and like I said before, reality is way overrated. Also, tonight on the show, the Bixie Demon will be joining us to talk about Sleepaway Camp, which we covered in the original episode 20, but we are going to cover properly this time. Or improperly, and Dr. Steve Lucha's Sim will be joining us in the last quarter of the hour.
Dr. Lucha Steve Sims will be covering the winter meetings. You have no idea what I'm talking about, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I think maybe you should fill me in.
It's baseball related.
Well, the only thing I'll say baseball related is I was doing laundry right before the show, and you know one of the items I was washing?
Yeah. I think that's why you deleted the last show.
Oh no, that was the thing I was probably most proudest of is on that aborted episode of Slammin' Stan. During the episode, I went on Amazon.com to buy a Vince Combs T-shirt. I'm sorry, a Lince Combs T-shirt.
A Tim Lince?
The guy in the Giants who was sparking the owl got busted, but still won the Cy Young Award a few weeks later. See, I keep on forgetting what his name is, but I think he is the coolest figure in baseball today.
I think you're just doing that on purpose. You switch it over to Tim Lincecum so I don't have to bring up how you're not watching AAA, despite your...
That's true. Well, but I must confess, I'm not watching baseball either, and I've only seen one photo of this cat. But I dig somebody, even though his number is 55, his number should be 420. And they should be marketing this guy to the moon, especially here in California, where hopefully one of these days they're going to legalize marijuana because it's the right thing to do.
You know, at the rate they retire numbers, I think at some point somebody will be 420.
I think you are correct. That would be, that would be so bitchin'. That would be a new day.
We're getting to 99 and all those numbers. Pretty soon there'll be 100, 420, all those numbers. So.
Yes, and for all of you out there, no, I am not a pothead. I am not a regular toker or anything like that. But I have very strong beliefs that this is the most ridiculous substance to ban, and it should not be illegal. It should never have. That's just my opinion, not necessarily the opinion of anybody else associated with the show. But, I am a strong advocate of medical marijuana, and I would much rather people use marijuana recreationally than use alcohol recreationally. Well, I guess we should move on to other stuff now, huh?
I was we were talking about this before the show, and I asked you if you had listened to the Jim Cornette show on Figure 4 Daily.
No, I have not, but I am downloading it because there is no such thing as an uneventful Jim Cornette rant.
First of all, I have to apologize to Figure 4 Daily for calling it the Jim Cornette show. But I mean, usually when Jim Cornette's on the show, that's pretty much what it is. Jim Cornette.
It's very true. Hey. It took me a long time to remember that the appearance he made on the Tommy Fierro podcast was done by Tommy Fierro because Cornette did such a great political rant, which I agreed with, and I am really usually terrible expressing my political beliefs, in a very eloquent way. It's not my strong point.
Yeah, I have no political...
You're very wise, actually, Alfredo. You're wise not to have any political viewpoints. But Cornette expressed what I feel, and he did it so eloquently, passionately, in that typical Jim Cornette, just anger, stream of consciousness rant. I have it on CD. Actually, Dan Farron burned the CD for me and said, you got to listen to this Cornette rant. It's gold. And it was done, I believe, last May, and I still have it in my CD collection. And when I just want to let go, I pop it into my CD player.
Well, the good thing about the one thing I will say about Brian Alvarez, the good thing about his show is he doesn't let Jim Cornette talk about politics.
Really?
Well, I mean, he doesn't get to that point. I think because there's so much he has to ask him about wrestling. Where, like I was telling you when we talked about the shows before, where we were talking about all these different things we talk about on our podcast, how we go off on different stuff, and I told you how Brian. The one thing I will say about Brian Alvarez, he sticks to what he knows. Wrestling. Very rarely will he talk about. Hey.
Brian Alvarez has the art of how to conduct an interview down. I mean, it's hard to stay focused. You and I have both found that out.
Well, during the show, Jim Cornette is talking. They asked him about what wrestler he thinks he thought. He was talking about how all the wrestlers have gone through the independent circuit. That when he was back in OVW, who he thought was really could have developed into something special, and guys who got who moved up, who weren't really who didn't have anything to contribute to wrestling, basically. And he mentions Mark Jindrak.
Mark Jindrak, really?
Who's currently, but not in the positive way. I'll
right.
Hold on. Let me just explain it for people who don't know who Mark Jindrak is right now. Where he is, who he was. He started in WCW in the power plant, and now he's in. He spent several years in the U.S. Found his I guess it's his niche in Mexico, where he basically is the one big white guy in all of which is a great thing. I mean, we've talked about this a number of times how there's so many big, in AAA and WCW and WWE over the years, they always would bring up all these big guys, and all these other less talented guys would always make the really talented guys look bad.
Yeah,
they would group them all together. So, Jindrak's improved in AAA. So Jim Cornette's talking about the first time he saw Jindrak, and he says he couldn't. He was the shit, basically. And I just started laughing. Because it was such a funny way. Because Jim Cornette just said he was the shit.
Oh yeah, he's there's no censoring machine on that cat when he has full reign, and so that's the beauty of podcasters. They are not FCC controlled, so somebody like Jim Cornette can express himself and not have to rein himself in.
So that's fine. It's his opinion on Mark Jindrak, which I kind of agreed if he's going to point out to somebody really talented who never got an opportunity. So the next question they ask him, who was the one guy that he thought that he's seen in wrestling that's wasted away, who they wasted, who TNA and WWE have wasted on their time on, who a guy with a ton of talent that they haven't done anything with. And the name he comes up with, all these names that he's probably seen throughout OVW, TNA, ECW, all these different places, and he brings up Matt Morgan.
Interesting.
Have you seen Matt Morgan?
I have not seen Matt Morgan in several years.
Matt Morgan.
He's the one who did the stuttering gimmick, right?
Matt Morgan is nowhere near. I mean, he's not even. He's not even better than Mark Jindrak.
Now, did Cornette elaborate on this?
Well, you know what it is. I think it comes down to where he trained. Because Matt Morgan is a guy who started with OVW, whereas Mark Jindrak started elsewhere in the power plant. And all the guys in the power plant, they all look the same.
No, that's true. That was a very I don't want to say generic look, but the power plant was almost like a synonym for bland.
Yeah, and they all came in they all came out looking the same. And I'm guessing when Jim Cornette saw Mark Jindrak for the first time, he obviously had already seen, he saw him in WCW. He was pushed too soon. And then you look at Matt Morgan as a guy who Jim Cornette put all this time into him and everything, developing in OVW. And there's a little bit more, he's got a little bit more, I don't know how you say this, but he's got a little more invested in him.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, Jim Cornette will point one that was worthless, one that was not utilized. I would love to see what Paul Heyman would do with Mark Jindrak and Matt Morgan, because he's one of those guys who has a different kind of genius where he'll take somebody who nobody else will see something in, and Heyman will say, I think we can do something with this guy.
Yeah. That's the one thing that Paul Heyman always had over Jim Cornette, I think.
Yeah, I agree totally. Now, one of the things that we were going to touch upon was the death of Eddie Fatu, a.k.a. Umaga. Anybody who knows me knows that I don't follow WWE very closely. I just get a little taste of it every couple of weeks or so. I'm not exactly been a student of the game lately. I don't know, for some reason, I know deaths similar to this happen frequently in the business, but I don't know why this one upset me. I didn't know him personally. I have a friend who was friends with him and his family when my friend was training in Nevada.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that has something to do with it. But I really dug the Umaga character, and I was always frustrated that they didn't make him a little bit more of a monster than he was. I can't even put into words. I just dug the guy.
Yeah, I think the whole thing about like him being a monster, it really just, it's all these writers nowadays with the way they're doing the whole booking. It's a completely different, a different world we live in now.
I agree. You could get a complete monster and they will make them look like more of a pussycat. I mean, they'll look fierce a la Umaga, or, they are a giant like the Big Show, and, they make them look not that all dangerous. I mean...
Well, the thing is, like, I think they do it in certain, like, certain periods of time. Like, there's about a three-month period of time where a guy will look like a monster, then all of a sudden, if one of the writers or Vince McMahon or whoever loses interest in that guy, instead of keeping him that way, they're pretty much done with him. They just, it's over with that guy. He's no
and I mean, I enjoyed his matches.
Yeah, and he was really good too. I mean, I've seen him. I've seen enough WWE where I knew he was a pretty good worker. And I saw him in All Japan, so that's a little bit more.
Oh, so you saw some of his All Japan work then?
Oh yeah, I saw more of that than the WWE stuff. For some reason, I mean, it's because of all the DVDs I have to watch, it's more of a Japan, and Lucha is a little bit more of what I watch than the U.S. stuff. For some reason, U.S. wrestling just doesn't really captivate me as much. And I try to watch it. It's just not as interesting nowadays.
Yeah, I'm guilty of the DVR syndrome. I will catch what sticks out for me and fast forward through the rest.
Well, I tried watching ECW, and I think I told you about this, about over the summer. Like, I was watching 5 weeks in a row where I was watching it, and it was really good. Then all of a sudden they screw it up by putting that Abraham Washington show.
Oh Lord!
And then I stopped. You've never watched that, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I'm serious about this. I still have not watched an episode of ECW in over 2 years when I finally decided there is no zombie on there.
Yeah.
Until they bring back a zombie.
Oh,
It does not have to be the zombie. It has to be a zombie that eats people. Right. Until they get the zombie back on ECW and utilize him properly, my boycott is still on. I am not watching.
I take it you won't be watching that 3-hour TNA show?
Yes, I will watch that.
Oh, you will?
I'm fascinated. I'm just I have to see what happens. I predict it's going to get a huge rating, but all from people like us that are just going to say, what the fuck? Let's see what happens here. This is too funny. Who knows? I mean, are we going to get an overdose of the Nasty Boys and Brutus Beefcake? Oh, I'm sorry, Ed Leslie.
I think we'll probably end up seeing Rob Van Dam and Ric Flair at some point. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of got tired of Hulk Hogan in WCW. What's going to be so different of Hulk Hogan?
He's older.
Yeah, older now.
Older, and he's slower. And remember when he and Nash were kind of, teeing off, running the show here and there, how horrible that TV was? I just want to see if it's a different kind of horrible or if there's something to it. I'm just fascinated. I'm not going to watch it every week, obviously, but I do want to watch that 3-hour episode. I can hardly wait. I'm going to order a pizza and everything. I'm going to,
You sound so excited. I can imagine you watching it. When does this end? Good Lord, when does this end?
I'll straitjacket myself. Not Ludwig von, no, it is wrong.
We should do a video blog of you watching the TNA.
And then we could sell that as a pay-per-view. I think I could probably harbor some pretty good reactions.
Midway through the show, we'll do like a Blair Witch type of segment where you're in your restroom, threatening to cut your veins.
As I'm saying goodbye to my family and just weeping into the camera like
make this stop, make TNA stop. I remember when WCW was really bad. Every argument would end on every message board with a "Hey, knock it off, or else I'll make you watch the Kevin Nash 3-hour special."
See, this might be a whole rebirth. If not the rebirth of pro wrestling on TV, it might be the rebirth of pranks on the internet. It might be a lot of good punchlines here and a lot of good drops for the board on Figure 4.
Wouldn't it be funny, like, if somebody did their YouTube videos and actually added that sort of thing, like, instead of just being, like, in front of your computer and doing, like, this is a great, I can't believe, like, giving all these news updates. Have you ever seen all those YouTube videos where kids are doing all the...
I know of them, but I've never had the desire to sit through one, actually.
I've seen one where there's a little kid and his dad, his dad, who happens to be shirtless, is standing behind him right after the Jeff Hardy thing, and the little kid's like, Jeff Hardy ruined my. It's true. Jeff Hardy was arrested with drugs and possession, and he's like messing up all this stuff, and the dad's like, yeah, I told you, Jeff Hardy's a drug addict. And like the dad, I'm like, yeah, that's great, a fat dad right there. So I'm just laughing through the whole thing, and I'm thinking, why don't they do more YouTube videos like that instead of just being casually in front of your computer taking wrestling?
Well, maybe I have to give some of those a shot. I like the concept.
You're like, maybe I will watch this.
Yeah, really. There's a lot I have to catch up on here. Well, the other passing recently, last month, was the passing of the LA promoter Mike Lebelle. And it's funny, Umaga, who I saw little of, I was, very sad to hear of his passing. Of course, him being very young and the probable circumstances surrounding it. But it's weird. I grew up on LA wrestling. I loved LA wrestling, and I was, very wistful earlier this year when the Golden Greek John Tolis passed away. And when I heard that Mike Lebelle died, age 79, of cancer, the reaction was very different. I was trying to figure why. I wasn't all that moved. It was, in one way, end of an era. But, he wasn't one of those figures like a judo Gene LaBelle or Dick Lane or John Tolis, where he was in the forefront of the show that was LA wrestling back in the 1960s and the 70s. And he is a really innocuous character, but at the same time, as I have been listening to and reading the various tributes to him since his passing, the one fascinating thing about Mike Lebelle is he had a really good run as a promoter in the Los Angeles territory. I mean, just a killer run of sellout shows, closed circuit events, and show at the LA Coliseum featuring John Tolos and Freddie Blassie that drew, depending on what source you can rely on, around 25,000 people. I mean, this was the peak of LA wrestling. It was in the hands of Mike Lebelle, yet here was a guy who had a passion for making money, but not only did not have a passion for professional wrestling, but wasn't even that aware of his product. He had some really great bookers like Charlie Moto, Leo Garibaldi. I didn't know this until reading the Masa Saito Hall of Fame issue of the Wrestling Observer, that Kenji Shibuya was the booker. And, I mean, business was through the roof. But usually when you hear of a promotion having these really strong, lengthy runs, you hear about the promoter who understands his product, who has something invested in it. And with Michael Bell, it was all about just, let's keep the cash cow going. And it's surprising that the territory had a good run as it did with somebody who just, didn't put a lot of heart into the business. In fact, I didn't know until reading recently that he was so uninvolved that he did not even watch the matches, including the main events. He would just hole himself up in the box office and, just count his money, from what it sounds like.
Doesn't it sound like almost like the majority of wrestling promoters nowadays, bookers and all that, like outside of Vince McMahon?
Well, but it seems a lot of those bookers think they understand the business.
It kind of seems like they're not really paying attention to what their product, what the fans want to watch. Like they don't really think about the wrestling.
No, exactly. Well, I think they're not paying attention to what the fans want. They're paying attention to what they want, to what they think is brilliant. And even if all the fans came in and said, we think this product sucks, they're still convinced they're doing something awesome. Where this guy was, where Lebelle, it sounds like he just would, roll somebody in there and say, okay, if he doesn't sell out at the Olympic Auditorium within a few weeks, we'll, put him down the card or hike him out of the territory. The other fascinating thing is, like I said, he was not a presence on TV that often. And when he was, it was just a complete disaster. The angle that sticks out the most was in 1975. There was a character here called the Amazing Zulu, which was a bodybuilder by the name of Ron Pope. And the guy could not work a lick. But so each match, they would have him just clamp a full Nelson on somebody and, beat them in record time. He was a babyface, but he was gradually turning heel. And, considering he was not a good worker at all, in fact, he was a terrible worker, I thought they sold him pretty well. And as they were doing the gradual heel change, they involved into the storyline that he wanted to put his full Nelson on Andre the Giant and see if Andre could get out of the full Nelson. So as they were working up to this, Andre the Giant one week was being interviewed by Mike Lebelle. And Zulu comes out and says, like, Andre, I just want to put my full Nelson on you and see if you can get out of it. And so Andre agrees. He clamps the full Nelson on Andre, and Andre starts to work out, try to work out of it. And out of nowhere comes John Tolos and Greg Valentine, who are the top two heels, and they start wailing on Andre while Zulu holds him in the full Nelson. And throughout all of this, Michael Bell is just standing there looking wooden as a tree. And when the thing breaks up, he looks in the camera and says, "Wrestling fans, I'm trying to understand what's going on here. I think, what I think, wrestling fans? I think that John Tolos and Greg Valentine paid Zulu $500 to put Andre in the full Nelson and hold him." And then Tolos comes, into range again, and Lebelle says, "John Tolos, did you do that? Did you pay Zulu $500? And Tolos just starts cutting one of his great interviews, just almost ignoring the question, just like, it's like, it didn't matter what you did, Michael Bell would fuck it up if he, put the microphone in front of his mouth. And, well, maybe that's one of the things that was advantageous of him as a promoter, is maybe he knew he was incompetent. And like I said, when I started watching, it was 1972 when the territory was red hot. And I've said this before, and I firmly believe this. Wrestlers like Tolis and Blassie, yeah, they were an important part of the territory. But the ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon, the commentator, Dick Lane, and Judo Gene LeBell as the ringside locker room interviewer, in my opinion, that's really what made the show.
Yeah.
You could have had the worst wrestlers on there, but Dick Lane could sell a match like nobody.
Well, it's like with WWE now. If Jim Ross isn't calling the matches, usually there's a huge drop off on the. Yeah,
exactly, and that's a very good example. I mean, Jim Ross is a very good comparison to Dick Lane, not in their styles or anything, but Jim Ross, you're listening. Yeah, I mean, he's selling it to you.
Yeah.
Dick Lane, they let go in late 1973.
Wow.
And Jeff Walton recently mentioned on the Figure 4 Daily Show with Meltzer and Alvarez that Michael Bell thought that Dick Lane was losing it, and not losing it mentally, but losing his touch and not selling the product very well. So he got rid of Dick Lane and had Gene LeBell be the commentator. And to me, that was a big turning point in the promotion, because I love Judo Gene as the guy who cuts the interviews after the matches. But as a full-time commentator, oh my God, he blew. He blew and blew terribly. And he just sounded, where Dick Lane just sounded like a firecracker and just, sounded like he was excited to be there and made you feel like you should be excited to be watching TV. Gene LeBell just sounded like he'd rather be anywhere but sitting in front of the microphone doing TV commentary.
He probably hated it, too.
Oh, yeah, and that's, another thing that is no secret, that Gene LeBell and his brother Mike were not the best of friends. They did not get along at all. But anyway,
we have Bix on the line already.
We have Bix, so I just want to just wrap it up real quick and say, Mike Lebelle, whatever you did for the territory, God bless you. Rest in peace. Yeah, I know a lot of wrestlers would probably be grumbling because he was not loved by the boys, by very few of the boys. But
I should bring up the fact that the last week when our show fell apart.
Yes.
What did I tell you about Los Angeles wrestling?
About us bringing it up all the time?
Yeah, and I told you it was funny because Mike Lebelle had just passed away when I did.
Was that timing or what? It was a sign. Yeah, we talked about this. I talk a lot about old LA wrestling, and I'm going to kind of pull back on that a bit. One, because it makes me sound like an old man who just relishes the old days, which I do. I do relish the old days of LA wrestling, but I don't need to bring it up every week. So God bless you, Mike Lebelle. You were not loved by the boys. You had a good run, and you did some really stupid promotional moves, but hope you're resting well wherever you are. And now we have the Bixie Demon on the line. David Bixenspan, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. I'd just like to say before we get started, though, that if my attention span seems like it's not there, it's because I'm getting over an ear infection and I have to pop my ears at least every 10 seconds.
Oh, ouch. Are you going dizzy, too?
No, I just have, the pressure. It's the altitude thing.
Oh, man, I am so sorry. I've had those, and those hurt like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it's not the worst, though, but it's annoying.
Oh, well, hope you're feeling A-okay in the long run.
I can't complain too much.
Now, the Bixie Demon here turned me on to one of the most underrated slasher flicks. Slasher/summer camp flicks. Sleepaway Camp, a movie made in 1980. I've heard the title for years, but I never thought twice about watching it. because, stereotypes, summer camp movies are pretty much all the same. There's a crazy hacker going around just slicing people up. A sleepaway camp, pretty low-budget movie, not the lowest I've seen, but this was a really, really enjoyable hacker flick with a really funky twist toward the end, which I think Bix and I, you and I both agree that we should not reveal it and let people just dig it.
The thing is that it's been revealed in, some semi-mainstream stuff. They actually made a joke about it on Robot Chicken once and said, wow, someone's actually making a joke about this movie, blah, blah, blah. But they actually, I believe, did reveal the ending there, and...
Yeah, I have a feeling enough people haven't seen it that...
Yeah, and the movie is much better without knowing the ending, so... I agree. Unless you want to reserve time at the end and tell people to turn it off.
Nah, I want to leave them wanting, and I hope it encourages some people to rent it out through Netflix or one of those sources. It's worth going out of your way for.
Is it worse than Bruno?
There are two very different movies.
Have you seen that movie, Bruno? Have either of you guys seen that movie, Bruno?
I've seen Bruno.
Yeah, I've seen Bruno.
I kind of like Bruno, actually.
You liked it? It was horrible.
I thought it was hysterical. A little cruder humor sometimes than I'm accustomed to, and I love crude humor.
Yeah, but I thought it was horrible compared to Borat.
Well, yeah, it wasn't as good as Borat.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree.
Borat was so much better, but Bruno was so
Borat was hysterical. I actually missed the Ollie G show, though. I think that was still his pinnacle.
Yeah, that was a good show. Have you seen that Flight of the Conchords show?
I still have not seen that, and I heard a lot of people rave about it.
I think you would like it.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
It's on Netflix.
Now, what's the best way you would describe Sleepaway Camp, Dixie?
It's a slasher film. The killer is kept a secret till the end, though, so it's not you don't have your, slow chase scenes some movies.
And where I've seen so many flicks where, you see all the kids at summer camp, and just some mysterious figure starts hacking away. I thought this actually was pretty imaginative. It was low budget, but it was not no budget, and it looks like they had a lot of fun penning the storyline, too.
Yeah, you have, the weird, sexual undercurrents with the gay dad, but they try not to make anything of it in the beginning, but it plays in later.
Yeah, and they show a little mystique about what, the brother-sister connections from the... It all starts, at a not a summer camp, but at a lake.
Several years earlier.
Earlier, where there's a brother and sister playing. They're probably about 5 years old, and there's a terrible speedboat accident that takes the life of the father. And there's, again, I don't want to. I'm scared if I talk too much about the whole setup, it'll kind of give some stuff away. But they really put some thought into this flick. Yeah. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece or anything, but for a low-budget flick, it was a lot better than I expected.
Yeah, the acting is phenomenal in its own way.
Yeah, I agree. Well, what's funny was there was so much, so much hacking and so many imaginative killings that should have disturbed me. But what disturbed me the most was there was one character in there, one of the women who was one of the camp counselors, who's probably in her early 20s.
Meg,
that's right.
Meg.
She's, you find out partway through the movie she's going to have a rendezvous with the guy who owns the summer camp, who is an extremely old man. And what's disturbing is she's all excited about going to bed with this old man, and I'm like, oh my God, it repulsed me more than any of the killings. They don't show them making love or anything, but the suggestion was a lot more brutal than all the disturbing hackings.
Now, it's been a while since I last watched it, but I thought that their rendezvous was supposed to be already ongoing at the time.
Actually, I think you're correct, which makes it even more disgusting. I mean, I guess it's maybe a granddaddy she had liked to, you know. But the other thing, whenever I see a movie like this, the first place I go is I run to the Internet Movie Database to see all these actors, you know, see if they've done anything else or if this was a one-shot deal. And what fascinates me is the lead in the movie was a 14-year-old actress named Felissa Rose. And usually when I watch one of these low-budget flicks, I find that either they've been in maybe 2 or 3 other B movies, or, you know, sometimes they, you know, make it somewhat as a commercial actor. Well, Felissa Rose, fascinating, is Felissa Rose appeared in Sleepaway Camp. Actually, I gave an incorrect date. It was actually 1983 when this movie was made. I said 1980 earlier. She had a small part in the movie 10 years later called The Night We Never Met. Pretty much disappeared, and then from the year 2000 on, she's appeared in scores of movies, a lot of them direct-to-videos, but what's beautiful about this is they are all just bona fide B movies, B horror flicks, with titles like Corpses Are Forever, Zombiegeddon, Satan's Playground, Deadly Little Christmas, and one I've never seen but I've heard quite a bit about, Silent Night, Zombie Night. And she's in pre-production for a flick called Mondo Holocausto.
Wow.
I just love that title alone. So, Felissa Rose really actually caught my attention in this one. It's very cool. I think it's very cool that somebody, you know, made one memorable appearance in a B flick and then kind of embraced that legacy and later appeared in all these horror and hacker and zombie flicks.
And she makes that memorable appearance with, 5 lines throughout the whole movie?
Yeah. In fact, one of the characters she plays, a movie called Cerebral Print, she plays Carolyn the MILF.
Ooh.
So, I mean, she's embraced that B-movie culture from top to bottom. I mean, this is when Bixie recommended this movie, I was thinking, yeah, I can dig it. But I was unprepared for what a fun thrill ride that Sleepaway Camp is. And I know they made several sequels to it, too. In fact, have you seen any of those, Bix?
I have not seen 2 and 3, which were made by different people. I have seen the more recent Return to Sleepaway Camp, which is from the original writer and director, and was actually, I think it came out, it was either, I think early this year on DVD, but it had been made several years earlier, and I don't know if I ever heard why, but it looks like there was, if you watch it, and this is not really a spoiler, there's some changes. It looks like they had to go through some major editing changes because it's old enough that Isaac Hayes was in the movie.
Oh, sweet.
But it's set up. It looks like it's set up at one point that he might be killed because he's a relatively prominent character and then disappears. So I'm guessing that they edited out his death because he had actually died. And I have no idea if that had any bearing on the movie.
Right, but they had such a big name that's already on the celluloid. Why waste it?
Yeah, I mean, that one also has Big Pussy from The Sopranos, Murmur, Christopher's AA sponsor from The Sopranos, who's been on a ton of different TV shows.
Oh, wow.
There are a bunch of recognizable people in this, and the only person from the original who's in there throughout the whole movie is Ronnie, the counselor with the short shorts.
Oh, awesome.
But the thing I love about Sleepaway Camp is that everything in the movie that could possibly fail somehow doesn't. Like, even the ridiculously long softball game scene, where pretty much nothing happens for a good 10 minutes, is still somehow entertaining in that it's so interminable.
I found myself not wanting at all to fast forward through anything. It kept my attention. And like I said, it wasn't any brilliant filmmaking, but they knew how to spin a story, and they knew how to keep your eyes on it. It's like you didn't want to fast forward through anything, or you didn't want to give up on it. Very imaginative. Another interesting piece of trivia was the character in there. What part did he play? I can't remember the name of the character, but Robert Earl Jones appeared in it. And Robert Earl Jones was the father of James Earl Jones. His character was named Ben. He was featured a lot throughout the movie.
Was it the black guy in the I don't remember that many older black guys, so was it the guy in the kitchen worker?
Yes, it was. He was kind of like, I can't remember if he ran the kitchen or if he was just, or I think he was put in charge of the kitchen after that one poor guy got doused with boiling water.
Well, I wouldn't call him a poor guy, because wasn't it implied that he was a pedophile, but everyone...
Yes, exactly, yeah, he was not, I should not invoke any sympathy on him.
Well, it wasn't just implied, it was outright.
Yeah, it was disturbing. But Robert Earl Jones was the father of James Earl Jones, and he actually had a very fascinating film career, too. His first role was in a movie called Lying Lips, which was a work of the African-American director Oscar Micheaux back in 1939. And Oscar Micheaux was a pretty ballsy filmmaker who a number of his films focused on, issues of race back then that a lot of filmmakers, people would not be pleased with him, getting on film and just kind of putting out there. There was supposed to be one film he did, I can't remember the title, where they even had interracial romance be part of the plot, which, amazing he was able to do that back then and just, not get the boots put to him. Unfortunately, a lot of Micheaux's stuff has been lost or destroyed, but a handful of his stuff still exists, and it's some stuff worth checking out.
I had no idea that was James Earl Jones' father.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was going, looking at Internet Movie Database, I'm like, wait, Robert Earl Jones, where did I hear of him before? And as I was, looking up and down the list, I'm going, oh my God, that was that guy in Lying Lips, which I think you can get through a lot of sources. I believe it's in the public domain. I got it through Something Weird Video, the, video company that I rave that frequently up in Seattle, who also put out the DVD Wrestling Women USA with not director's commentary, but historian commentary done by Johnny Legend, Dan Farron, and Vandal Drummond.
Dr. Lucha's on the line now.
Dr. Lucha, how are you? We have all four of us, Los Cuatros Rudos.
Just want to point that out before he says something thinking he's not on the line.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
You're on the air.
Well, why didn't you just say you were introducing him and then put him on the line?
Well, because Kurt kept talking, Kurt's nonstop talking.
I've got a big mouth. I've had 4 cups of coffee and 3 cups of tea today.
I could mute you guys, but I don't really want to do that.
Kurt, you will be proud of me. I used my 45 minutes away from the podcast to visit the store, and I purchased 2, not 1, but 2 new sets of dental floss.
Awesome. Okay. So we know that Dr. Lucha is flossing. And everybody out there listening, Brian Alvarez is in the bad habit of neglecting to floss. So send your cards, letters, emails, and dental floss to Brian Alvarez. I don't have his address in front of me. Look it up. You'll be doing a wonderful thing. Tell him that.
See, I don't want to stent in my heart or any sort of diseases.
Okay. I did a quick listen of your appearance today. I was busier than I would have liked to have been at work today, but I did hear you talking about Konnan allegedly having a stent put in his heart.
Hey.
Now.
Yes, it was news to me because I have spoken with him within the past week, and he sounds completely normal.
And now, where again did you hear this bit of news?
Dave reported it in the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week.
Oh my Lord!
And with I don't think it would be an unusual suspect to figure that Konnan is the source about information for Dave.
Well, when you talked to him, was it before or after the stint was literally put in?
It would have been afterwards.
Well, a lot of people feel. I remember when my grandmother got a step once or twice. She felt a lot better. I remember she was very much more vibrant than she had been. So it wouldn't shock me that he sounded good.
Isn't he wrestling tomorrow or something?
Sunday night or Friday night, Guerra de Titanes.
Yeah,
tomorrow night in Ciudad
I think that
Madero.
would probably tell the story. He's going to make an appearance, and
although he had a stint in his heart within the past couple of weeks, I would imagine he's not doing much in the way of wrestling.
Yeah, I would think that a very unwise move.
Many of us might say that he hasn't been wrestling much anyways.
I agree with what you said, Steve, is that I think he is much more effective on the microphone. And, I mean, if he can sell tickets being in the ring, that's awesome. But
oddly enough, one of the things that we discussed was when he was going to write his book, or when the book was going to come out, the Konnan autobiography. And suddenly today in Super Luchas, 8 days after we talked, it's announced, hey, Konnan's going to come out with his autobiography.
Oh, that's going to be a fascinating read. I'm looking forward to that. I'd rather
he has had no matter how you look at it, he has had a very interesting life.
Oh, definitely. I mean, my preference would be that if somebody else wrote the book about him. I love it when somebody who stands outside the box can write a really great biography.
That's an excellent idea. I think I proposed something like that to him.
They should find
and what was his response?
Not that I would write it, just that somebody would write it. I don't think he's opposed to it.
I think that'd be great. As much as I love the Bret Hart book, and it is a great, great book, you're still hearing it through Bret Hart's lips, and I'd rather read a book from somebody who is looking from the outside in and trying to get a lot of views that are parallel with the subject of the book, but also views from people who, object to their viewpoint or disagree with them. An autobiography could still be very good, but I'd rather see a really well-written biography, like what Jeff Lean did with the Mildred Burke book earlier this year, and the Gordon.
Well, that's not an autobiography.
What's that?
If she's dead, that wouldn't be an autobiography.
No, I was referring to that one as a biography.
Biography, yeah.
And what a good job Jeff Lean did with it.
Dr. Duch is taking you to school now.
That's right, I'm being schooled.
Hey, Fredo, the Lakers have won 10 in a row, so they're up to 3-1 now.
Yeah, they're still stuck at 3-1 on my website. After I gave up writing.
They're not the Psycho Circus clowns.
They're going to catch up to the Psycho Circus.
They'll one day be 9,000-0. They're going to have to play a lot of games in one season, but I have faith in them. Now, that was the most anticlimactic explanation for the Psycho Clown Circus, or the Psycho Circus
Well, it was
clown.
a non-explanation because just like his answer to the question about Pathfinder, he illustrated, which is something that I've taken from other wrestlers in the past, that there are many wrestlers who are just involved in their own program, and not that they're not fans of the business, but that that's all they focus on.
Yeah, that's understandable.
There used to, when I lived in Chicago, we used to go to, I think it was called the Stone Park Inn, but it was an inn out in the west suburbs, where the NWA guys or / WCW guys would go after every show, and then the WWE guys started going. I mean, you could regularly count on meeting people there, from Michael Hayes to Lex Luger to Arn. And I remember Arn and Tully and Sean and Marty were all together, drinking together at the place after one of their matches in 90, 91 maybe?
89. 88 or 89, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been. Yeah, it could have been. In that area and stuff. And it was the place that they hung out in Chicago, and the referee, the guy who owned the bar was ring announcer for Windy City Wrestling and stuff. And that's when I first learned that there were a lot of guys who just paid attention to their own program.
Well, that actually brings up something that speaking of Windy City Wrestling, did you ever have any contact with Mike Gratchner when you lived in Chicago?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, he, I believe...
It's possible that I would. I knew a whole bunch of people when I was going to WDC Wrestling by their first name only. We were like a gang.
He was Sam DeCero's co-promoter, I believe. And
I remember Alan Epperson. You know, he died of AIDS. He was one of the very first persons that died of AIDS that I knew or in the business. And I remember him being in the promoting bit, and I know Sammy was there, but I don't remember Mike.
I bring this up because I've been doing research for this Slam article, and it may be more than an article. It may end up being something like their wrestling movie database. We're not sure exactly what we're doing, but trying to do something about the different wrestling video libraries and who owns what and how complete they are. And I found out that he apparently shot, and in addition to a lot of photos over the years, he apparently shot a ridiculously large amount of film. And apparently now I know someone who has them. Apparently they take up a whole room, and a lot from St. Louis, but also a lot he would travel to other territories. And apparently there are films that are labeled as being both, including Ric Flair versus Bob Backlund and the Tommy Rich Bud Sawyer cage match from the Omni.
Well, that could be. I know that if you got a hold of Sammy, he could point you in the direction of. For as long as I was in Chicago, every Windy City show I ever went to was filmed, even if it was just filmed by vanity filming for use for the guys to look at themselves after the matches.
Now, Steve,
everything was filmed.
Steve, when you're talking about the nepotism involved in wrestling in general, and you're referring to the ring announcer, is this the ring announcer that had the knife in the back analogy?
No, this is completely different.
Oh,
that was. I don't even think it was a ring announcer. It was who were the two Minneapolis Eddie Sharkey trainees that were the Road Warrior wannabes after the Road Warriors?
The Ring Lords?
It could be. It was maybe 80.
Maximum Overdrive?
5 or 6, 85 or 6. I'm not sure if I'm even going to remember.
And I was paraphrasing, but what exactly was that quote again?
But it was actually one of those two guys who made the physical. It turns out that was the guy who actually made the physical comment to his partner, from which Jeff Siegel put together the phrase, "I can't believe these guys can walk to the rings because they got so many knives in their back."
Oh, that's the business for you.
I have to mention something. You mentioning Eddie Sharkey, because you're going to love this story. I forget how I figured it out. I was looking through title histories and stuff, bored one day at Heath's site, and I somehow looked at the PWA tag titles, and it had Maximum Overdrive, who I guess it was some team they had there, and they were. Remember how, like in 1990, there were a few Clash of the Champions shows in a row that had big roided up guys doing jobs or winning and then never appearing again?
Yeah, I went to some of them.
Okay. They lost to the Steiners on one of those shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then PWA started billing the Steiners as the PWA Tag Team Champions, saying that it had been a title match.
Oh, my Lord.
I don't remember. It's funny, I don't remember.
That's awesome.
Remember that.
And then they eventually stripped them of the titles for not defending them.
I mean, that would be like, since the Steiners beat Konnan and Rey Mysterio, like booking them as the Win Tag Team Champions.
Or better yet, the Hollywood Heavyweight Wrestling Champions, even though they never teamed on that show.
Yeah, but they were. But they.
I love it.
Their title, though.
I think that's hysterical. Oh, I love some of the ideas promoters come up with. Only wish I came up with them first, but Well, we're at the top of the hour, and
oh yeah, it's plug time.
I know it's plug time. So, for one thing, everybody has to check out on Figure 4 Daily the Wednesday edition that featured Steve Sims. A lot of good lucha talk on that. And David Bixenspan, your site is loserleavestown.net, correct?
Yes, and also have do all the blogging stuff, running CagesideSeats.com, and podcast. Not sure when I'm going to get the next one up. Had to get a new headset and also had some scheduling difficulties, but I'm going to try. Just got an email back from today, so I'm going to try to have Dutch Mantel on within the next week.
Oh, I would love to hear that. And I advise everybody, check out Bix's interviews. He cuts a great interview. He asks a lot of good questions, of the wrestlers. Very well-informed hep cat.
Thank you.
And Alfredo, your site, slambamjam.com.
Yeah, and luchaworld.com.
Fredo has one of the most bitchin' collection of DVDs. Check them out, and Lucha World is an awesome site, too. My site is standtheembryo.com, and I want everybody to go there right now just because I posted a YouTube video I came across on another person's site, and it's something that will either give you a good laugh or give you nightmares. So everybody go to standtheembryo.com. It's beautiful.
Okay, well, I'll go. Oh.
Is the site updated now, Kurt?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, check out Pinky and Perky.
What?
standtheembryo.com.
The last time I checked that out, I got arrested.
I don't know the story behind it, but I think I'm going to have a bad dream tonight. I think that's what's going to happen. And also scroll down, see Tom Waits sing On the Nickel. It's worth going out of your way for. Now, remember, all of you out there, if you come to Southern California, which the Guajardian master Jose Fernandez will do very soon, if you're walking down the street in Southern California and see something flying across the night sky, it is not a shooting star. It is a heavenly handful of, what, gentlemen?
Bontel's powder.
Right on, Daddy-O.
Except if you're listening to the pre-recorded version of this show.
Exactly. Bingo.
It's already
we got through episode 20C, the third try. We did it. So, Alfredo Esparza, Vandal Drummond, Dixie Demon, and Dr. Lucha, thank you for tuning in. We will see you all next week.
Next week.
Rock on.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.